Hey boys and girls, we're here in sunny Los Angeles, California. I'm with Ben Schaffer, and today we're going to take a little tour of Unplugged Performance, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to the fact that Ben is going to show us the police cars.
I'll just kind of narrate what we're seeing here. So we have what we call our Invincible Cybertruck on the left, and then an early prototype of the police Cybertruck on the right, and then to the right of that we have Model Y patrol vehicles.
Wow.
So I think maybe what we'll do is perhaps we can go into the Cybertrucks first and then do a deeper dive into the Model Ys. Does that work for you?
That sounds fine to me.
Great. So I think we'll start with the Invincible Cybertruck, as we call it. So on a truck like this, you know, our ethos with modifying Teslas is really to first try to understand what the vehicle is before we start modifying it. And in the case of a Cybertruck, obviously the intention is to make it as rugged and indestructible as possible. But there are limitations to what a vehicle manufacturer can do from a homologation standpoint. For example, as rugged as the truck is, the plastic bumpers have to be there for pedestrian safety reasons.
Yeah.
On our vehicles, we took all the plastic on the bumpers and made everything steel. So everything externally on the truck is, I would say, hardened. So one of the unusual things about using carbon fiber on a hood in this case is that we used it to create volume instead of to make it lighter. And the reason we created volume was to house this 50-inch curved light bar. And the idea behind it was that the curved light bar, we wanted to provide an option that was away from the roof of the vehicle and more integrated for aerodynamic reasons, and also, quite frankly, because it looks cool. So the hood is really designed around the light bar, and then rather than use ventilation for downforce, we use ventilation for heat extraction for the light bar. So it's kind of the unusual usage of motorsports carbon fiber, not to save weight, but to add off-road lighting. So this is kind of a fun project, and then next to it we have what I think we're still very early, but there's obviously a lot of excitement for good reason around the idea about Cybertruck patrol vehicles, and this is an early version of that. So the Cybertruck police car, we have a dedicated forged police wheel package. We have lots of lighting integration, and we're continuing to build more components onto it. And then we have two Model Y patrol cars. These are actually two different clients. We have South Pasadena on the right, and we have one of our first East Coast clients, Douglas, Georgia, on the left. And I think it'd be interesting to discuss some of these components. So what I'd like to do is go over a couple things myself, and then we'll go inside, and I'd like to introduce a couple special guests as well. Before I bring them in, I wanted to point out one detail of engineering, actually two details of engineering that I'm quite proud of, because I think they're meaningful for police departments. This car represents one of our first vehicles. And when we first started this, we didn't yet have, in all cases, our wheel and tire package. So the comparison of these two is very interesting for police use. Now, what Tesla does from the factory on their wheel tire package is they design it for aero efficiency, which means that the wheel face and the tire sidewall are pretty flush, which is great for aero. But this is one of the very few cars on the road that doesn't have a curbed wheel. Most of them end up seeing curb rash because there's no tire protection. Now, in the factory wheel, you have basically an aerodynamic focused wheel that's cast, and it's efficient for manufacturing and it's efficient for daily use. But police departments, what they do is they don't care about any of these things. They run over curbs, they get in chases, they do a lot of wild stuff, and we believe they need a different solution. So what we've come up with since then is this. And when you see them side by side, you'll notice a couple key differences. First of all, this is actually a police dedicated tire. This is an Elite Force BFG tire that's meant for police use. Then you have sidewall protection and a harder sidewall that can support all of this kind of crazy activity that police drivers do. And then most importantly as well, we went with a lightweight forged wheel that looks like an old school steel wheel, but it's actually FEA rated, super heavy duty, is pretty much as indestructible as you can get for a wheel, but still very lightweight and forged. And we made an 18-inch wheel that'll clear even the performance calipers that usually require a 19-inch wheel. So we downsized the wheel, we made it as light as possible, and we created a lot of sidewall protection so that officers can drive as hard as they want and not have any fear about cracked wheels and have plenty of tire coverage. That's just a good visual to see kind of where we're going with engineering. And then these are our ballistic door panels here. Douglas chose not to have them, South Pass chose to have them. But what's interesting with these in particular is it's a different approach to bulletproofing the vehicle. Traditionally, what happens is there's a lot of labor and work to be done to insert steel plates and various things inside the cavity of the door. And there's a number of problems with that. Besides cost and inefficiency, the biggest problem with that is that it actually is really not ideal for officers in daily use. When they're ducking behind these doors and relying on these, the car's not always on a flat surface. And when you have a huge heavy door pushing on you, it's not a great outcome. So these are actually much lighter, which make the door hold up better. The hinges aren't going to break because it's not sagging. The window's not going to contact like it would on a heavier ballistic door. And ultimately, we think it's a better solution. These are on all of our vehicles as an option. Very lightweight, easy to install. If something happens, this comes off, the door underneath usually is fine. You slap another panel on it and good to go. So these are kind of two interesting outcomes. Sandy's probably wondering what's behind it. It's Dyneema, which is, we think, better than Kevlar.
Yeah.
And an ABS kind of outer layer and enough kind of backspacing in there for the Dyneema to catch the bullet and function.
So we talk about bullets. What kind of bullets are we talking here?
This is NIJ 3+ rated.
Okay, for us that don't know what that means, what is it?
Means a lot of stuff. I don't have the whole list top of head. It does not. There are some, of these specialized bullets that can pierce vests. Some of that stuff probably is not under NIJ 3+, but all the common handguns and various things is covered under NIJ 3+. And it would be even better than me saying it because I am less of an expert than the guys inside. So I think what we should do is go inside and introduce James. And I know we have a special guest in there as well.
Cool.
So let's go in there and dive into the specifics. I know they have a lot to say. Come on in. So guys, we have James Headland. James is our director of fleet for Up.Fit, which is our police division. And then we have the one and only Sergeant Abdallah.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good meeting you.
Nice to meet
Nice
you as
meeting
well.
you, Sergeant.
Sir?
Yep.
Good to meet you.
Great meeting you. Yeah. So is that one of yours outside?
It is one of ours.
Yeah.
It's one of 10 patrol cars. We have a fleet size of 20, and we just converted our entire fleet all at once to EVs, those being Teslas. So we have 10 Model 3s for our admin and detectives, and then 10 of the Model Y patrol vehicles.
Very cool. So we were just looking here and was asking about yours has the bullet protection. What exactly in kind of like bullet talk? What would this protect you against?
A rifle, which is
Rifle 30-06 or
primarily we're looking at 5.56 or 2.23.
Yeah. Wow, that's still plenty good.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah. So how did you, I just got to ask the question, how did you convince City Council to go in this direction versus, and usually it's just, well, we can't do that because we've got all these Ford spare parts and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
How did you do it?
Well, part of it's your fault, Sandy.
Yay!
Our city's very environmentally and sustainability conscious. So they've been on us for about a decade to convert our entire fleet all at once. And we had kind of a long history of saying, not no, but not now, because we felt like the technology wasn't quite there yet. Until Tesla unveiled the Model Y in 2019, it really perked us up, and we thought that might be the first form factor EV that could meet our needs. So we started doing our due diligence in earnest, and that's where you came in, because I watched many of your teardown videos to really get kind of granular with it, to figure out, okay, which EV is on the market that would perform well, that would reduce maintenance. For us, the best maintenance is no maintenance. Safe vehicles.
Yeah.
And after that probably 3 years worth of research, we decided to go in Tesla's direction.
So this is a great opportunity. You guys have good timing. So Tony bringing this car in for a couple of enhancements that they wanted to do to the car. And so you guys will kind of get to see a version that we've engineered a little bit earlier in our program, and now this car was literally just built last week. So we've got kind of a development over time. You're going to notice some minor differences because while we have more of a template, we're trying to make sure that it's easy and quick. As Ben said, we're going to have inventory, turnkey, be able to literally just call us up and send you a car. But with little nuances here and there. So some departments choose to do those ballistic panels NIJ3. So I mean, it's a win-win. But some departments don't need it. So you're going to notice minor differences here. Douglas has a gray car. And in California, most of the cars have to be black and white. So, but Tony and South Pasadena did a great job working with their design team and did this really cool livery on there. So on this particular car, he's got basically everything that we offer up front. If you want to come up front with the camera, we can kind of show you guys in his car, and then we can check out the other car as well. And so on this side, you can kind of see there's actually quite a bit of space. And Tony, do you want to kind of come on down and showcase? You probably look better in the car than I do. Come on in.
So this car has been in service since about February of this year. It has the full Whelen ecosystem in here. So their control head for the lights and siren, the control head for the exterior controlled spotlights, computer which runs our CAD and records management system, radio, rifle rack, and then in the back here we went with a single prisoner partition, and then in the back there's a shotgun mount and some extra available room. And one of the reasons that we went with the single prisoner partition is it allows full movement up and back of the driver's seat for some of our taller officers, and also it helps restrict some movement for prisoners that are in the back.
Yeah, in this, we did a lot of research on this, by the way. We obviously worked really closely with Tony to figure out what the best options were for deploying and making sure that everything we put in the car is not just going to look cool, but it also does the part, right? So, you know, they use these as real police cars, and I'm actually, every time I see one with scuffs, it makes me happy because it means they're being used, you know, to the way that the way that we built them out. So
it doesn't take us long to scuff them,
right? One of the things I know is going to make a big difference over time is, you know, just how we continue to evolve. You know, Tony's seen this firsthand, but we don't just take what ideas we have at the onset and stick with it and just, you know, never change, just never stay with status quo, keep innovating. And so we use feedback directly from all of our partners. So we partner with now a ton of different agencies, South Pasadena especially, and we use that feedback over time to innovate and make new changes. So we did, for example, this car has a single prisoner partition, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but we found that it keeps people from, you know, getting on their back and trying to get crazy. And so if you want to come on over, I can show that to you. So basically, obviously this is hopefully the only view that you get. You don't have to get in there without cause. But it's actually a good amount of space. And what was can we say the maximum threshold of capacity for the largest suspect?
When we tested, I think the largest at the time was over 350 pounds.
Yeah,
over 6 feet.
So 350 pounds is over 6 feet. That's pretty good.
It's plenty of room.
Yeah. And what I'll do is, so you kind of got a good idea of this car that's already been deployed with South Pasadena. I'm going to show you this car from Douglas. So this car is going out to the city of Douglas. I'm actually going to squeeze by you real fast and kind of turn on the lights. That way you get a full full view of everything. So you'll notice on this car, you have these lights, the spotlights going back and forth. So we can program the lights to do that. You'll notice these lights are not doing that. So you can program them to do whatever you want. And there's a lot of different customizability functionality you can do with that. So again, we partner with Whelen. We wanted to work with a brand that's highly respected, great team over there. And because we do a lot of our own research and development and engineering, we wanted to work with people that had that same level of engineering prowess. The other thing you're going to notice is as we go from different departments, this is an all blue light bar versus in California, we've got this red and blue. And everything we do is what's called Title 13 compliant, and that ensures that it matches the very close standards of police work and police vehicles. Tony, do you want to shoot the layman for what Title 13 is?
Well, in California, Title 13 details the requirements for lights and siren operation in California. So
it's really long, by the way, the stipulations.
So visibility, colors of the lights, frequency of the flash patterns, all are covered under that.
Yeah, and so a couple of things I want to point out here. So again, you're going to notice iteration. So we wanted to try and preserve the integrity of Tesla's design and ecosystem. So on the first iterations of our cars, we actually perforated the front fascia and had the Siren inset so that it wouldn't be outside, wouldn't look ugly out here. Well, in our newer versions, we've now actually inset that and we have it hidden. So if you look at the front of this car here, you'll actually notice no Siren, but in our testing, it still operates at, you know, peak volume. And I'm obviously happy to demonstrate that for you guys as well. But it's a really important thing for us that we maintain the aesthetic that Tesla design team put together. They built beautiful cars. We want to make sure we do that. One additional thing I'd love to show you guys is if we come over here, I'm going to point something out that maybe not a lot of people think about. And it's the glass roof is intact on all of our patrol vehicles. And you know, some might say, well, hey, you know, shouldn't you replace it with a different kind of roof because maybe you want to drill holes into it for antennas and for those light bars? Well, the problem with that is that Tesla went through insane amounts of engineering and they safety homologated this vehicle, and that glass is not just for looks, right? That's a component of the safety homologation of the vehicle. So our whole goal, don't mess with Tesla stuff. We don't want to degrade or remove the things that the Tesla engineers did a great job engineering. So we keep the glass roof. We maintain all of the OEM functionality and operability. So autopilot still works on these cars. If you bought FSD still works on these cars. I won't speculate what officers could or couldn't do with autopilot, but it works. And so that's really nice. Things like Sentry mode, all of the great features from Tesla still work. If you guys want to come back here, I'll show you how we kind of coordinate our electronics. One of the things that we're offering, digital license plates for the departments that are interested in doing that. And so that's also a really nice option because if you were to take that off the car, it indicates it's stolen. So we partner with Reviver on that. And then I'll open this up and you'll kind of notice some additional components here. So you've got lighting on the edge. We of course have an override here. That way, if you know they wanted to turn that off, they can. And if we look under here, you'll notice that we have a red light. We can actually turn that off and we can turn it to white. So that's red, white, or off. And the great news is that that actually turns off when you close the hatch. That might sound like a silly detail, but most of the upfitting that occurs in these cars, they just pop a puck light. And if you pop it on and leave it on, it's actually blinding the officer while they're driving down the road. So if you ever seen a light on in the back hatch of a car police car while it's driving, that's why. I'll also open up the electronics bay. So this is something we're really proud of. So we have the prisoner partition up front. Just like South Pasadena, they went with a single prisoner partition. So this half behind here is fully accessible for an officer to put additional gear or things like that behind that seat. And then on that side is the prisoner partition. And if we open this up, this is where we keep some of our electronics. So a good amount of our electronics we of course have in various different locations on the car. So you know that includes power systems, conversion software, and then we innovated a technology that within the ecosystem of Tesla and Scope doesn't mitigate Tesla's operation but keeps the cars awake. So this is actually really important. A lot of people don't think about all these electronics have to be powered on. The laptop, the police radio, even the lights need to be able to run for hours at a time. We've tested our system. We can leave everything on, lights, radio, laptop, for a week, and we've seen the battery not drop above 10%. So literally 10% drop in battery over 1 week of just leaving everything on. That's preliminary testing. We've got, we do a lot of other examples, but it's pretty incredible. We've built a really efficient system. And as you can see, we take a lot of time, effort, put a lot of attention to detail into our builds, and we really always just make sure that we do the best stuff. One thing we also did is we custom engineered a wire harness that specifically coexists with Tesla's ecosystem. So again, everything we're doing, trying to make sure we don't inhibit the great car that they engineered from Tesla. So we engineered the wire harness. I have one inside for you guys to see because sadly you can't see how beautiful it is with most of it covered up. But here's what we found. If we cover this up, the electronics are hidden away. All of this space and all of this here is completely available for officer use. And you still have the side, And by the way, the front trunk is still completely open and available for use. So we found, after doing tons of research with various different departments across the country, that a lot of officers were just throwing stuff inside, right? So they weren't necessarily using some of those drawers that sometimes get put in police cars. So we said, hey, let's try this out. And if we open South Pass's car, you can kind of see, Tony, when's the last time this car was on patrol? As early as today,
about
right?
10 hours ago.
Yeah, so this is a used police car, and hopefully it's safe to open this up here. Yeah, so literally they just pull stuff in and pull stuff out as needed. And the other thing I wanted to point out is you'll notice that on a lot of these cars, we're integrating the antennas underneath the glass. So if I close this up, you're gonna notice that we've got 2 different antennas there. All the other antennas on this particular car are completely hidden out of view. Now, it does depend on the department and sort of what antenna or frequency they're operating on. The reason, again, we do that, aerodynamics, right? So every little tiny thing you add to the car reduces that or increases that drag coefficient. We want to make the cars go through the air quickly. That's also why we keep those light bars nice and flat. So the other thing I wanted you guys to see, the inside of this other car, pretty similar. I'll open this up just so you can kind of get an idea. So not a ton of changes, but you can kind of see minor little upgrades. There's a few that are pretty cool, so I'm going to hop on the other side so I can show you. One of the requests that we get quite a bit is, you know, where do we put things? Where do we put stuff? So this is customizable to some extent. The radios, we actually offer a system that removes this cable. Some agencies prefer to leave this in, but we have the PA system right here, the police radio, again, the spotlights and the full controller. Very important, you have to have cup holders. So we actually had to engineer this so that we have this available at all times. That tap to drive is right here, so it's just been moved back. And on future iterations, we're gonna have an additional upgrade on that. But one thing, again, where to put stuff. So we have a lot of departments have a department issued phone, and then they have a personal phone. So when they get in the car, a lot of them just have 2 phones in their vest. And you know, it's not always great, and then they're not being charged while they're in there. So what we did was we actually custom integrated a wireless charger. And this wireless charger, there's 2 spots here. And as you can see, it's now charging. In addition to the wireless charging, you're also going to notice that we have 2 USB-C outlets right here. And we even have, you know, the old school, if you will, DC 12-volt socket, you know, cigarette lighter style. And we're trying to phase these out, but some departments still use older technology that requires, you know, that connection. So we've really kind of put a lot of thought into the ergonomics here. You know, I think as time goes on, we're going to notice a couple of additional things. For example, all of our newest iteration vehicle, because this we built about a couple weeks ago, have a reduced height center console. So what you're going to see is that this center console is essentially reduced in height by 4 inches. You just might be wondering, like, what does that do? Well, for the officer, their duty weapon is going to hit right here against this wall. So what we've done is utilizing, again, extensive research and just ongoing, you know, improvements. We've said, okay, hey, let's remove that component, drop this down, and now the center console will be flat with the seats, and it'll make it more comfortable, give more egress for the officers. This also, of course, helps with getting the rifle, since the rifle is located just behind them. So basically, that'll just be located right there. We even have an upgrade coming where we're going to have a printer behind the headrest on the rear passenger seat. So we're putting in a lot of really cool little touches on all of this stuff.
And then down here is where we are shifting all of our production for Up.Fit. On these vehicles, we're not able to disclose the customer, so the doors are covered, but you can kind of get the idea as far as the production process. Our team over here is always hard at work on building the cars, and much like Tesla, our success or failure comes down to how efficiently we can build. It's really about efficient manufacturing. So for us, when we talked before about how we're building our own harnesses, how we're creating all these solutions, it's a combination of the right long-term solution for Tesla service, for our customers, but also for assembly. And the whole point here is to be able to continually drive down the costs, increase the efficiency of production. And we're about almost 2 years into our learning curve, but this is representing kind of our next stage of production.